What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another video, and the first video of this here Preptober. Today we're going to be talking all about dealing with self-doubt as a writer, that terrible feeling when you just hate every word you write, because I've been dealing that for the last 2 weeks and I actually beat it. So I wanted to bring you along and show you how to do that. So let's get started. Now, everybody deals with self-doubt, especially in creative mediums. And writing and writers are no different. So that's why we're going to start out with tip 1. Embrace imperfections. Your first draft is never going to be perfect. You just have to accept that and not beat yourself up about it. I definitely fall into the camp of write a word and then edit that word and then write another word and then edit that word. And I just get nowhere, and it's really hard for me to just get into the flow of things and let myself write without overthinking every sentence I put down on a page. So I've had to learn over time to just acknowledge that it's not going to be perfect and just keep moving forward. Editing comes later. That's your new mantra. Editing comes later. Right now you're just writing. Tip number 2. So you're accepting that editing comes later, but you're not sure what needs editing and what doesn't need editing, and you're reading it and you can't tell what sentence is good and what sentence is bad. Show it to other people. Even if they just give you good feedback, it can boost your spirits. And if they give you bad feedback, constructive criticism, don't just take criticism, just constructive criticism, then you can sort of know what is good and what is bad. In general, showing your work to people can help you figure out what's in your head and what's actually in need of editing. Tip number 3, visualize your success. I know that this sounds cheesy and it sounds very random and why are you throwing that in? It's a fantasy. But honestly, it's great motivation. This is embarrassing. I've interviewed myself. I said it there. I actually just said that on camera. I've interviewed myself. Sometimes I will just be, bored, and I'll just be like,
"So, Ash, I've heard that your recent comic book was a huge success. What do you have to say about that?"
Oh yeah, it's doing amazing, I just want to thank my family for being so supportive of my creative interests and blah, 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 blah.
And it seems really silly, and it's a little embarrassing to admit. It's a lot embarrassing to admit. But imagining this fantastical success of being a published comic book writer, and it's
being turned into a TV show, have you heard?
It's fun. You get to picture your goals, and it gives you that reason to keep moving forward. And you're not thinking about the editing that you're not sure if it's right. You're thinking about one day when I'm a completely successful billionaire writer, because those totally exist, and I can do anything I want and write any story because I'm just that good. You get the point. It might not be realistic, but you're having fun and it's a reminder of what you're working towards. So that's going to bring me to tip number 4. Set realistic goals. I know I was just talking about fantasize, but you also do need realistic goals. If you go into your writing and you're like, this month I'm going to finish a novel. If it's NaNoWriMo, set yourself that goal. But in pretty much any other circumstance, you should probably be more like, I'm gonna hit 10,000 words on my novel, or I'm gonna edit this chapter, or something doable within your schedule and within how much you want to write every day. So, for example, over the summer, my goal was to finish editing all of the first 6 issues of Project Punk and to start working on the next section. I will link the playlist up above about my Project Punk journey and how that's going. And I was able to accomplish that goal because it was realistic. I gave myself a whole season to finish editing some things that I had already started editing. And I told myself that I was going to be at the point to start working on some other stuff. And being able to accomplish that goal felt amazing because it showed that I was actually making progress. Whereas when I first started writing, I would set myself goals like, finish Project Punk. Well, yes, that is the ultimate goal, but if you break it down into manageable little portions, it'll make the progress that you are making noticeable. It's also cool to log it, being able to look back and see my vlogs has helped. Or like, every month now I set myself 5 goals to work on, and a lot of times one of them is writing based, and it feels really good to be able to check that off at the end of every month, and it gives me a boost to move forward and continue writing. Tip number 5 is to practice self-care. If you're feeling bad about life, you're gonna feel bad about writing. If you're tired and don't feel like doing anything, you're not gonna feel like writing. If you're hungry, you're not going to feel like writing. I know this one's probably pretty obvious, but if you take care of yourself, you're taking care of the writer who needs to do the writing. So just try and do little things for yourself. Don't just push yourself non-stop to get more projects done and more work done and more writing done. You need to take time to, recharge and refuel. And whether that's exercising, which I found really helpful. I've started doing that recently, and just gives me a boost every morning when I go for a walk. Or making yourself a nice lunch. I write my best when I am well rested, well fed, and gotten rid of all the other chores and things that I have to do for the day. Because if I'm like, later I have to clean the bedroom, I'm just going to be thinking about that instead of writing. So just take care of yourself and your space, which you should be doing anyway, but here's extra motivation. It'll improve your writing. Tip number 6, push through your fear. I know that doesn't sound very fun, and it's not, but it's worth it. There have been plenty of times when I've been really anxious about my writing, and just recently, part of what made me want to do this video was I had been working on Project Punk, which is my comic book series that I'm currently writing, and I just was not liking anything that I wrote. I was convinced it was all terrible. I couldn't find the good in anything that I was putting down. So I was confronted by 2 possible options. Keep writing anyway, or stop writing and give up. I hadn't made much progress. I really wanted September to be a month full of writing, and I was really struggling with it. So I decided to push through the fear and just keep working on things. Now that didn't mean just overwork myself and ignore any boundaries or limitations that I had. Instead, I found another way to deal with the self-doubt. I went back and I reread everything I'd already written. And guess what? It wasn't that bad. My memory of it was so skewed against myself that it seemed so much more terrible in my mind than it actually was. The first 6 issues that I had already edited, I'm still happy with them. I still think they're good. And that gave me a little bit of a boost to go into what I'm currently working on, which is issues 7 through 12. And I read what I had written, the first drafts of those, and I was like, you know what? They're not perfect. They're a first draft, but there's a solid foundation for me to build a comic issue here. And just going back and reading that and seeing that and pushing through and not giving up when I wanted to, it meant that I was able to keep moving forward and that I didn't just throw it out the window like I've done before. I was at one of those points again where I had to decide if I was going to give up or keep going. And you have to keep going. You can't give up. Even if keeping going means taking a bit of time off. I've done that, and it's really helpful. One time I took a whole summer off from writing, came back to it in the fall, full of new inspiration and excited to write. Sometimes you just need to do that. Sometimes moving forward is a break. Sometimes moving forward is keeping writing even though you're insecure about it. Sometimes moving forward is finding another way to overcome that insecurity, like watching this video. Way to go. You're keeping moving forward. But whatever the case, just don't give up. Now, tip number 7. Celebrate your achievements, no matter how small. And I mean it. You wrote a page today? Congratulations. Way to go. You wrote a sentence today? Good for you. You wrote a whole book today? Wow, I didn't know that was possible. I'm proud. I'm very impressed. No matter how much or how little progress you make, even if it's not written progress, even if it's you edited, or you did a character outline, or you did some plot research, or you did world building, whatever the case, every single little thing counts. You're building something brick by brick, so you should celebrate every brick. You will never get the house built if you don't celebrate every single little bit of foundation that you lay down first. Tip number 8. I am beginning to struggle with remembering how many fingers to hold up. Embrace your creative journey. That sounds cheesy, but you have to. Self-doubt is a part of every creative thing you will ever do. Artists, writers, sculptors, that was the next one that came to mind. Anybody who makes anything is going to deal with self-doubt at some point. But the whole thing is you can't let it stop you. You can't let it consume you. Self-doubt is always going to be there. No matter how many of these videos you watch, it's always going to rear its head once in a while. These videos might help, which is why you should subscribe, because that feeds the algorithm so more people can battle their writerly self-doubt. But once you've done that and you continue watching this, self-doubt's just going to be a thing. And yes, you can get better at dealing with it, but it's always going to be there. So you just have to accept it and move forward. You have to start recognizing it. Before, when I read something that I felt insecure about and thought it was bad because of that insecurity, I'd be like, this is bad. I should delete it. Now, I can recognize I'm reading this and thinking it's bad because I'm insecure about it. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'm not going to just assume that my base emotional response to being insecure, which is to throw it away, is correct. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to come back to this when I'm feeling less insecure about it, and then I'll edit it. That's a specific example because I really think that you can suffer from over-editing because of self-doubt. Over-editing is like when you write your favorite scene, but because you feel very passionately about it, you decide to cut it out versus show it to people and risk them not liking it. So I really think that you can't do that. I've been guilty of almost doing that so many times. Whenever there's something that I really want to happen, or something especially like dramatic, that I'm like, this would be such a cool scene, and then I write it, I'm like, I can't show this to anybody. But that's just the self-doubt talking. If people cut out every scene that they loved from their stories, we wouldn't want to read them. So you have to embrace your creative journey and embrace how cheesy that sounds. Tip number 9, create a writing routine. I have a video specifically all about this, so I will link that stuff up above. I think that a writing routine is super helpful, but specifically for this, it can help because if you're like, I'll write when I feel like writing, and you're feeling a bit of self-doubt, you'll just never feel like writing. You'll always find an excuse. But if you have a routine, and every time that this routine or this time comes around, you sit down and you write, you're going to be forced to confront that insecurity and get over it. Or at least be like, today's not a good day, I'm feeling really bad about this stuff, so I'm just gonna come back to this later. That's fine. Sometimes taking a break is what you need. I'm never gonna say that taking a break is bad. Taking a break is fine. But if you never force yourself to go back to it, then it's not a hiatus, it's a give up. And you don't want to do that one. That's the one thing you don't want to do. My routine, for example, is that I write every single weekend. And it's sort of loose because it depends what day I write, and once in a while it'll be so busy that I just don't get to. But every weekend, I try and do at least one writing-related thing. Whether that's writing an entire issue of a comic or just doing a little bit of behind-the-scenes world building. It depends how I'm feeling that day. But every single week, that means that I'm making progress, even if it's small progress. So I think that developing a writing routine can be super helpful, and you should definitely check out the video that I linked up above because it can help you create your own unique writing routine. Tip number 10, constantly nourish your creativity. Are you dealing with self-doubt? Are you feeling writer's blocked? Are you just, in general, not sure what to write, where you want your story to go, any of that? Well, maybe you're not reading enough. Maybe you're not watching enough TV. I know that whenever I'm feeling self-doubt, which usually leads to writer's block, these two things sort of go hand in hand, I will feel so much better after I watch something creative. And that means anything. I watch a lot of shows. I love shows. Like I just finished The Owl House, for example. And after I watched that, I instantly wanted to make like 80 new characters, build a whole new world, subplot to my story and everything. And I'm not letting myself because I've already got a lot going on in this story, so I'm gonna put those new ideas in a notes folder and save them for later. But it just got me inspired again. So if you keep nourishing your inspiration because it gets hungry, then you will always have little ideas. And I've found that when I'm excited about my writing, there's no space for self-doubt. There's no room for writer's block. If I am excited and inspired and thinking about characters and worlds and plot points, then I'm not thinking about, what if the sentence is bad? What if it's not what I should be putting here? Maybe I shouldn't even be a writer. I'm just having fun writing. And that's what this is really all about. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that this helped. I'm sorry you're dealing with self-doubt. If you're watching this video, that's probably happening. But I hope that you get over it soon, and I hope that some of these tips helped. Please don't forget to comment, like, and most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss any videos. I have lots of plans for Preptober and NaNoWriMo. It's my first year doing it, so we're going to have lots of cool videos, and I'm going to be doing one on how to overcome writer's block in the next couple of weeks. So you should definitely stay tuned for that one. Happy writing!